Hey everyone, and welcome to the Beyond Life and Fitness podcast. I'm Cheryl Patton.
And I'm Megan Prince.
We started this podcast as a way to connect with more people who are struggling to fit it all in. The workouts, the food, kids, work, and relationships.
We know that we're not perfect, but we hope that through our struggles and our mistakes and our failures and our successes that we can help more people through their challenges and be successful. So if you want some tips and tricks to help you along your journey to be the best version of yourself, then this is it.
All right, so we are back, and today we are going to chat about why we have our clients check in with us on a regular basis, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly. All the coaches are a little bit different, but why we have you do it and the importance behind these check-ins. So we came up with about 7 reasons why we have our clients do check-ins, and one of the reasons why we do it is so that we can help you troubleshoot if something's coming up, if all of a sudden you have a roadblock or something new has come up that you haven't had to maybe deal or handle before, whether it's at work or at home or whatever the case might be. But how do we now navigate this particular challenge? How do we get around it? How do we get you to move through it and keep putting that one step in front of the other to get you to whatever your goal is?
I think when problems and challenges arise, I think as coaches and knowing that, we know through both of us that when things like that happen, digging deep and sticking to what you say you're going to do for yourself builds so much confidence and self-worth in yourself that then you can continue. That's the best way to work through those challenges and problems, is not because most people, I'm throwing in the towel. I can't do this. I have too much stuff. My mom needs help. My kids have this, like I've had times where my kids are in the hospital and they're sick and we don't know what's wrong with them. And I literally tag teamed their dad, and I was like, I'm heading to the gym for 45 minutes. Not because it's selfish, but because in order for me to work through that problem, I need to stick to my things that I promised to myself so that I can trust that I can get through this. Because if not, you have this feeling of this problem overtakes everything in your life and I'm not strong enough to get through that. Your strength comes from taking care of yourself. And when you have a coach really saying, keep me on track right now. I feel like I am going to go off the deep end in 5 seconds and it'll be a slippery slope. So keep me in check.
Yeah, and keeping on plan or on track can shift.
Oh my gosh.
During that particular time, right? It can look completely different.
Yeah.
Before this challenge came up.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, right? People think that, okay, well, if I'm not doing it exactly how it's laid out, then there's no reason in doing it because it's not possible. Okay, well, we shift just like anything else in life. You make a shift. Rather than going to the gym 4 times a week, maybe you can get there once.
Yes. Yeah.
Rather than going for a 30-minute walk, maybe you're going to go for 10. Right? Rather than knowing or not knowing that you can maybe get all your meals in at home because say you're at the hospital or say whatever the case might be, you're just okay, when I'm eating out or if I'm eating at some place that's not at home, I know I'm going to eat my protein first. I'm going to get those good fibrous veggies in, and then I'm going to eat my carbohydrates last. And if I'm having a sweet treat, then fine, right? I'm going to have a dessert rather than having the rice or the potatoes or whatever the case might be. You just shift.
And that's what a coach is for, right? We're at this hard time right now, and let's just figure out, because again, if you think you're not sticking to that exact program, you think you're failing. But what if we just need to change the program to fit your life right now?
Perfect.
Then we get through that challenge, we're good to go. So
exactly.
Yeah, number 1 reason to send in your check-ins is to work through problems and challenges that are coming up.
100%. Yeah. And then the next thing is definitely compliance. And I think compliance and accountability can kind of all go a little bit into one. But staying accountable to somebody. We all need that level of accountability, especially when you are just starting out and learning these newer ways of moving your body and eating and thinking about food, it all takes time and it takes practice, and you need that accountability just to help you stay on that track and not fall back into those old easy patterns that you've been living in for years.
Yeah. Like just sending that check-in is the compliance.
Yes.
Like just every week or every 2 weeks, send me your check-in. Even if it's not and no progress, even if you haven't been doing good, the consistency of every 2 weeks knowing that I haven't been doing good is going to eventually kick my ass and say, every time I send her this, I'm not doing good. So I need to work on this week so that the next time I send it to her, because I have to send it to her, when I feel like when we sign up clients that we should have them sign something that says every week I have to, or else I'm not coaching you, because it's not helpful to you or me if we're not doing those check-ins.
It's almost like a self-contract with yourself.
100%.
Right? And when I compete, like, it's no different for us. That check-ins are there, and the check-ins become more and more frequent the closer we get to a show date for a particular reason, because things are getting hard, and they just need to make sure that you're not slipping back even for one meal, and that you are staying on track. So when I know I have to send in pictures and a weigh-in, I'm more aware,
of
right,
what you're
of
doing.
My efforts.
Of 100%, because you're like, oh man, I can't send this in and then feel really
Right.
crappy. If you just, again, like, don't try on those pants don't wear your jeans.
Right.
You never know that they don't fit. It's
That's
like
right.
every week, if you're jumping on the scale and you know you haven't been compliant and you're not seeing changes, then you will, hopefully it will kick your butt into, because when I start not getting check-ins, I know that clients aren't sticking to it.
It's usually a good
indication.
yeah.
So I'm like, even if you just sent me every week and you weren't making changes, I would say, thank you for sending this to me every week. You've been consistent with this. This is one thing now.
Yes.
Let's do the next thing. Let's figure out the next thing.
And the next thing, and it could be as easy as hitting 2 liters of water a day.
Yeah,
and that's it. Like, it's right. Like, I think people get into their minds that it is some big, grandiose, massive overhaul, and that's generally never the case, because it's overload. It's just, it's too much too soon. It's the learning curve is too sharp, and that's when people get frustrated and quit. So again, that's another sign of a good coach, is that they're going to meet you where you're at and only give you your minimum effective dose, so that change will start to happen without sending you off the deep edge.
Yeah, like, you'll get your whole program.
Yeah.
But they're like, this is too much. I can't do this. Okay, let's do meal 1. Let's do meal 2.
Correct.
Let's get your water in.
Yeah.
Let's get walks in 3 times a week. If you can't do the 4 workouts I sent you, let's do 2 of them.
Yes.
And then let's just, like, slowly.
Yes.
But some people are willing to jump in and then they do okay. So it kind of
100%.
is just like...
Depends on the person.
Depends on the person. Another reason for check-ins is obviously our awareness of your progress, so that we can see what needs to change in your program, what doesn't need to change, what's working, what's not working. Are you making changes? Which way is it going? And again, I wouldn't jump to a conclusion when a client sends me something and be like, oh my gosh, we have to change it right away. Sometimes you have to stay at that place for a couple weeks
or
and
longer.
Then we can decide to make changes. There's too many times where you just jump to changes. So you kind of have to just settle in the comfy couch for a while and just do it and just keep showing up.
Yep.
And just kind of get in the groove and be like, this is how it is. Again, the journey is the destination. Every day, it's not like, what's my end goal? Because if you think about the end goal, it's so overwhelming. Every single day is your destination, because you just did better that day, right? And
I would say, for the 99.9% of the people that seek out nutrition and training coaches, there is no end destination, because you're trying to create a different lifestyle.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Right? So the only thing that's really changing is your mindset around the habits that you are changing into, right? You're trying to shift from old habits into new ones, and that takes time, patience, practice. You're gonna fail, you're gonna get back up, you're gonna give it another go, right? So there really is never an end date. It's because it's you're trying to create a better version of you. You're trying to create a better lifestyle for you. So
it's just the little things that add up every day, right?
Yeah.
The next one is building trust and rapport and building a relationship. So I think when you're, for sure, when you're hiring a coach, that relationship is super important, because basically nutrition and exercise can affect every single aspect of your life. So basically it's a life coach. You're investing in somebody. So invest in somebody, again, we've talked about it, but that knows, that lives the life, that
and that you feel comfortable talking to about things that might be happening more on an emotional level than a physical level.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, like, our brains play amazing head games.
Oh, they self-sabotage because they love it, because we want to be comfortable. So our body will just take us to what we know. And that's where coaches have to draw you back in. And be like, it's okay to change. These feelings are normal. You want to just go back to what you know, but it's not going to be...
Especially with people that have a very negative viewpoint or a very negative relationship around food, right? Like, food is either good or bad. Their food is not seen as a fuel source for our body. Food is something that you can reward yourself with or restrict yourself with. And that type of... a poor emotional relationship with food takes some time to heal from. And I know a client of mine, I've been dealing with this with a couple, and it's wrapping their head around that concept that no, like, you can literally eat anything that you want as long as you're getting it from as much whole natural food as possible. And then, like, if you're going to go out for dinner, go out and enjoy it. Don't think of it as like, oh my gosh, if I eat this, I'm going to go home, I'm going to weigh myself the next morning. You're going to weigh heavier. Do you know why? Because restaurants' goals are to make the food taste good. So they've added a lot of salt. There's sugar. There's a lot of added fats. So what's your body going to do? It's going to hold on to a ton of water until it processes it.
Just for a little bit, right?
Just for a little bit. So enjoy it.
Yes. And that's why being able to tell your coach, like, me and my husband are having a really rough time. We needed a date night.
100%.
Do it. Then go do it. It's not...
Or when you're on vacation.
It's not the end of the world, right? And and when you're on vacation, how can we manage it? So it's not 100%. Like, let's go off, like, roading crazy. Like, how can we manage those...
We're not encouraging people when they go out for dinner and go out on vacations to eat like a complete asshole. What we're saying is to, again, manage your expectations while you are on vacation or going out for dinner. And I know, like, for my clients, I'm like, just make sure you eat your protein first off the plate and then go from there. And then at least you've gotten your protein in, whether it's fish, beef, pork, chicken, I do not care. Right? And
and then the last one, I guess, is, we kind of talked about it, but just progress changes, so that we can make changes to your program. So that's why you have to do check-ins, because when clients come and say, what changes do I have my program, and you haven't sent a check-in, I can't make any, because it's really hard for me to see any progress unless I have that consistent information to decide what changes we're going to make.
Correct. And that information is, like, everything from not just scale weight, but it could, like, progress pictures. It can be, okay, how are your hunger levels been managed? How is your sleep? How is your performance in the gym? Are you able to lift more weight, or do you find like you're feeling weaker? How is your sleep? How are you finding that you're waking up rested and feeling recovered from the previous day? Like, there are so many different ways to measure progress outside of what a number on a scale says. And that's why these check-ins are so important.
So I think definitely make agreement with yourself that no matter if the check-ins are bad, no matter if the check-ins are good, whatever, you just consistently need to send them in because you've hired a coach to help you with something and get your money's worth. Like, send those check-ins, get your money's worth.
And we can't help you if we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, like, we don't do it to annoy people.
I know. I'm like, yeah.
We do it to help people.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's like anything. Like, even if you see a therapist on a regular basis, if you don't tell them what's going on, they can't help talk you through the problem.
Yeah. You're like, yep, I'm okay. Everything's fine. And you're like, no, I know it's not. So let's just work through this together, even if it's crappy, because people need people to rely on that have been through it. And we've been through a lot of struggles in our fitness career that we've had to work through, but most of the time it's just showing up for yourself every day and consistently doing it, and sometimes it's just really boring.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So there you go, people. We do not have you send in check-ins to annoy you.
No.
We're actually doing it to help you.
Yes.
Thanks everybody for listening today, and we truly appreciate you. And let us know what your biggest takeaway was today, and if you have any questions you want answered on the podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to automatically receive your episodes and to help us reach more listeners. We would love to connect with you on our socials, either Facebook or Instagram, with links in the show notes. Till next time, keep taking those small steps towards your best life.